Hey, my friends, it is Rick Hagar here. I want to thank you for taking the time to jump on my live stream today. We're going to get started here in just a moment. If you are catching me, let me turn my phone off. If you are catching me on the replay, please go ahead and let me know that you're on the replay. If you're catching me live, you can certainly let me know if you're catching me live. And on top of that, let me know what city, what state, what province you might be coming to me from. That would help me to reach back around and say hello to you later. Always great to see where people might be logging in from. For those of you that don't know me, and I've got a great topic for you today. I've been involved in network marketing, direct sales as an entrepreneur, working from home for over 25 years now. Been very successful within the industry, built some pretty large organizations, hundreds of thousands of people, hundreds of millions of dollars in volume, and earned millions of dollars in income in this industry. It's been an incredible industry for me. And so some of the things that I share on these live streams, I'm able to pull from some of that experience, kind of a 35,000 foot flyover over the course of well over 2 decades now. And so today, I'm going to share with you a topic that revolves around handling objections, common objections or questions that come up in network marketing and building a business. As you go out there to build your business, people are going to object in certain ways. I'm going to share with you just my thoughts with respect to objections. And so I hope I can give you some value with respect to this. As we get into this and I say something that you really like, if there's value to you, I'd love for you to pound away on the heart emoji there, or on the heart, love hearts. Also, if you have a thought, an idea, or a comment that you'd like to share with regard to anything that I say, please do it. Go ahead and drop it. I will answer any questions that way as well. And you may be able to provide some value to people that might be watching this with your comment or with your thought. And so keep that in mind as we go forward. And if you find there's value and you want to share this, please go ahead and do that. Okay, so with that being said, let's talk about handling common objections in network marketing. Let me go ahead, if I could, and lay the foundation for this, if I could. With respect to objections, I want to begin by asking the question, where do objections come from? I think if you're going to get involved in network marketing and you're going to build a business and people are going to say certain things to you, it's important to have kind of a foundation of why people say what they say and where some of these things come from. So to give you an example, why would someone give you an objection? Well, I find that they come pretty much from 3 places. Okay, 3 different places is where these objections come from. Number 1, it comes from people's past experience. When people have experiences, they form opinions about things. And so when you ask them to take a look at an opportunity, they may be responding to your opportunity based on an experience they may have had in the past. So that's something to keep in mind as we go forward and get into this topic. Number 2, a lot of times people will give you an objection because of hearsay or something they heard someone else say. So maybe they didn't have their own experience, but they're just regurgitating something that someone else said, and that's how they're responding to you based on what they heard from someone else. It's amazing. People make decisions, financial decisions, business decisions, not based on their own experiences sometimes, but sometimes what they hear some other person say. So that can be one area. And then a third reason that people will come up with these objections when you're talking to them and sharing your opportunity is fear. People have some genuine fear, but rather than tell you that they're nervous about getting started in the venture, what they'll do is they'll give you an objection more like a smokescreen. So as we get started with all of this, just understand that this is where some of these things come from. People's experiences, things they hear from others, and then of course their own insecurities and fears that they might have. So if you understand that going in, it puts you in a better position to be able to deal with some of the common objections that will come up within our industry. Okay. Now, here's another important point before I share with you 4 or 5 of the things that come up a lot. You really want to, if you want to have a long, strong career in network marketing and become successful in network marketing, you should really begin to develop the understanding about what you should and what you should not deal with. There are certain things that are going to come up that you have a legitimate prospect and they have a legitimate question or concern and you want to be able to address and deal with that. There are some people where the timing is just not right for them. And I really believe that this business comes down to catching people at the right place and the right time in their life. And they may be throwing up objections to you. And if you don't understand that, you can damage a relationship and ruin the opportunity to go back to them later. So it's important to recognize that, okay, I do have a legitimate prospect and maybe they have a couple of simple concerns, or is it just a person who's not in the right frame of mind, not the right place, right time in their life, or they're just not a good prospect? And if that's the case, you don't want to spend a whole lot of time with them. One of the biggest reasons people fail in network marketing and in direct sales is because they spin their wheels and they waste a lot of time with the wrong people. They're trying to handle objections. They're trying to convince people it shouldn't really be there to be there. And that can take a lot of energy, and it can cause you a lot of stress and frustration. Have you ever done that? If you have, let me know in the comments. I can tell you right now, I certainly have. I've had people that really had no business being involved in my business, but I chased them and I hunted them down and I tried to overcome objections. And if it's not the right person at the right time, nothing you say is going to work. And even if you do convince them to get in, guess what? They're not going to do anything because they really didn't want to be there. Our business is one that tends to work best when you have a message and you share that message, you share that crusade, and people are drawn to it. They're excited by it, and they want to be a part of it. Now, you may have to address some concerns as you go along with people, and that's okay, but it's recognizing what are legitimate concerns with a legitimate prospect versus someone where the timing's not right for them, or they're just so biased that they're not even a prospect. And there's a fine line there. That's not really something you can teach in a live stream or even in person. It's something that you kind of have to learn and develop an instinct for as you go along. Does that make sense? Okay, so let's jump in. I'm going to share with you 5 things that have a tendency to come up. And I'm going to just share with you how I deal with some of these things. One of the things that I like to do is I like to have fun with my business. I like to be very loose and very casual and have fun with it versus having more of a sales-driven type mentality. I understand that 95% of the people in our society are non-sales types. So if you come across like a salesperson, like you're closing or you're trying to steamroll objections, you're telling them or signaling to them what they would have to do if they joined you. And if they're a non-sales type, you could ultimately end up hurting yourself. So it's very important to recognize how you react to these things can send a message to people. And if whatever you're doing, you're teaching. So keep that in mind as well as you go. I like to have fun with it. I like to sometimes when someone gives me an objection, give them an analogy or a metaphor that shows them that the objection they've given me is a little bit on the silly side. And sometimes it'll make them think about it and I can just get them off of it and move them in a better direction. So let me give you a couple of examples here. Here's number one. If someone just comes right out and says, I'm not interested, you invite them to take a look at an opportunity that can help them create an income, have a better lifestyle, have better health, well-being, whatever it might be, whatever your benefits are, you invite them to take a look and you just get a flat out, I'm not interested in that. Not interested in that. Okay? Well, what you have to look at here is, okay, is this a legitimate prospect that really is just nervous or afraid and they're using that as a smokescreen? Or is it a situation where you just have a prospect that's not ready and it's just too far gone? Because there are people out there that are too far gone. How many of you have ever had a prospect that's just too far gone? There's nothing you can do to get them to take a look. So when someone says to me, I'm not interested in that, I like to have a little fun with it. My response to them is the first thing that I do is I'll mirror them. They say, I'm not interested. And I say, you're not interested? And then I'm quiet. And a lot of times if someone says, I'm not interested, and you pause and you say, you're not interested, like you're re-questioning that, you're repeating, you're mirroring what they just said. A lot of times when you do that, people will then elaborate and clarify what they mean by that, and it gives you an opportunity to talk and have dialogue with them. So the first thing that I do is someone says to me, I'm not interested, I say, you're not interested? And I let them try to explain. If they give me an explanation that I can deal with, then I deal with it. If it's, nope, not interested, okay, so they're really cold. In my mind, I recognize they're probably not a prospect at this point. So I have a little fun with them. I say to them, hey, I get it. Let me ask you this question. What is it that you're most not interested in? Is it the income? Is it the time freedom? Is it having better health, well-being, looking your best? Which of those do you dislike the most? And I have a little fun with them. And sometimes you'll get someone that'll chuckle and they will laugh and they'll open up to you a little bit. Okay? So if they say, I'm not interested, I say, you're not interested? And I give them a chance to elaborate. If they won't elaborate, I say, help me out. What is it that you're most not interested in? Vast wealth? Time freedom? Better health? Well-being? What is it of those that you hate the most? And I try to have a little fun with them. And sometimes they'll open up, sometimes they won't. And if they won't, guess what? My favorite word is next. I recognize I don't have a prospect right now. This is not someone that's going to respond to me well. I'm going to spin my wheels if I chase this person. I'm moving on. If it's someone that I know in my circle of influence, I will say, hey, look, it sounds like the timing's not right for you. Take a look at our products. I'll get back with you in a month or so. Maybe the timing will be better. And I just disengage with that person very, very quickly. One of the big things with respect to your ability to become a great business builder is your ability to know when it's time to disengage with people because they're just not moving forward. A lot of people spend so much time and spin their wheels so badly with the wrong people that they get frustrated and they burn themselves out of the business. So when someone just gives you a flat out not interested, question it, see if they'll elaborate, and if they won't, disengage. I just like to have a little fun when I disengage by asking them what it is that they dislike the most. Is it the big money, the time, freedom, the health, the wellness? What is it that you're so offended by? And I just move on. And then from there I move on. If they open up, great. If they don't, they don't. Okay, so let's go to the next one. And again, remember, not interested. If that's what you get, more than likely you're dealing with someone who is not a good prospect right now. Let's go to the next one, number 2. Someone says, I love what I'm seeing here. I don't have the money. I just don't have any money. Have you ever gotten that objection? Has someone ever said to you, I can't afford it. I can't come in. I don't have the money. I don't have the financial resources. How would you handle that? I'm going to give you 2 ways that I handle that. Like I said before, I like to use metaphors. I like to use analogies to get the prospect to kind of see that what it is that they're saying really doesn't make any sense and that it's just kind of a smoke screen. So someone says to me, I don't have any money. I'd like to do this, but I really don't have the money. I say to them that the first little analogy that I'll use is the plumber analogy. Okay, I will say, okay, I get it. Let me ask you this question. If you were out and you went home, and when you got home, your toilet was busted, and water was coming up all over the place, leaking, flooding your home. Your items are floating down your driveway into the street. It's an emergency. You call the plumber, and the plumber comes over and says, I can fix this for you, but it's going to cost $500, or it's going to cost $700, or it's going to cost $1,000. What would you do? Would you say, okay, please fix it? Or would you tell the plumber you had no money and let your stuff just flood on down the block? What would you do? Guess what most people are going to say? Well, I'd fix it. I'd say, so really, if you're motivated enough, it's not a money issue. You could find the money. Let me show you how we're going to help you to win so that you never have to worry about having money issues again. And then I move them forward. I try to move them forward. So that's one that I use when someone says to me that if they don't have any money, I use the plumber concept. Hey, if you got home, your toilet was broken, your house was flooding, all your good stuff is floating down the block, and you called the plumber and they can fix it for this amount and use the amount that it takes to get started into your company, in your opportunity. Okay? A 500, 200, 1,000, whatever it is. Would you pay the plumber or would you let your stuff just wash away? Most people would say, well, I'd pay the plumber and tell them, well, good, go there to get your money. So that's one that I use, okay? Now, one other one that I will use is I do the cheap car sale analogy. If someone says, I don't have any money, I'll use the plumber one. But another one that I'll do is I'll say, well, let me ask you this question. If I pulled up in your driveway with a $100,000 Mercedes, beautiful, brand new Mercedes, $100,000, and I offered it to you for $500, or I offered it to you for $1,000, no strings attached, totally legitimate deal. Do you think you could come up with the $500 or the $1,000 for that $100,000 Mercedes? And most everyone will say absolutely. And I'll say, good, go there and get your money because this business is worth a whole lot more than that. I want to show you how to win. I want to show you how to make money. I want to show you how to be successful. Let me show you how we're going to do that. And I would try to move them forward on that. So when someone says that they don't have the money, more often than not, it's not about the money. It's more about motivation with the money that they have. Does that make sense? So there's 2 little things that I will share with them. The plumber concept analogy and then the expensive car for cheap analogy, and that kind of gets them to see that, yeah, they really do have the money. Let's go to the third one that I'll use, and this comes up every once in a while, is the no time. I like what I see, but I just don't have enough time to build the business. Has anyone ever heard that one? I just don't have enough time to put into something like this right now. What I do when someone tells me they have no time, first of all, it's another one of those objections where I recognize I may not have a prospect right now. If someone is so consumed with life and projects and activities that they just don't even want to look and won't make time, then I may not have a prospect. So remember what we talked about in the beginning, that you have to recognize what is real and what isn't. But when someone says to me typically, I don't have any time, I say to them, Bill, Mary, that's exactly why you should do this. That's exactly why you should get started today. Because this is a business that can give you leverage, which will give you more free time to do the things that are important to you and your family. You don't have any time. How much fun is that you don't have any time? I can show you a solution for that. And let me show you how we're going to do that and try to move them forward. Okay? So again, this is one of those objections where you've got to recognize, am I dealing with someone that's a legitimate prospect that is legitimately to them, they think they don't have enough time? Because anybody can do this business just a few hours a week. You can build predominantly from your mobile phone today, from the internet, anywhere today. You can be successful doing this, but I want people to understand that if they don't have any time, this business is exactly what they should do because it can give them leverage, which gives them more time freedom. Okay? So no time. I look at it and I say, do I discern whether this is legit or not? And if it is, I tell them this is the exact reason why you should do this business, okay? So no time, that's what I do. Now here's the fourth one that comes up every once in a while. I really like it and I think that would be great for you, but I'm not a salesperson. I couldn't sell anything. Do any of you ever get that one? Drop in the comments, let me know if you guys get that one. I'm not a salesperson. The way that I handle this one is they may have an issue, a self-image issue. They may genuinely think they're not a salesperson, although they'll sit there and sell you very hard on why they're not a salesperson, right? So when someone says I'm not a salesperson, I recognize in my mind 95% of people are non-sales types. So I want to put them at ease and let them know that it doesn't require them having sales skills to do this for them to be successful. So if they say, I couldn't do that, I'm not a salesperson, I say to them, no problem, that's great. Or no problem, that's just what I wanted to hear. And that throws them off a little bit because most people who are non-sales type, who are nervous about sales, they're always looking for someone to try to convince them of something. So when they say, I'm not a salesperson, I'm a non-sales, I couldn't do that, I say, hey, no problem. That's exactly what I wanted to hear. Thank goodness that's what you're saying. And I say to them, because hardcore salespeople in our business tend not to do as well. Our business, believe it or not, the highest paid people in our business, most of them come from a teaching or a coaching background. This is a business about sharing. If you could share something and let people make up their own mind, you could do that, couldn't you? Most of the people who are successful in our business just share an idea that they believe in, and people make up their own mind. They're drawn to it versus having to convince someone. I don't want to have to convince someone to do this business. So when someone says, I'm not a salesperson, I couldn't do it, I don't have the gift of gab, I say, no problem. I'm so glad that you're saying that because salespeople typically don't do as well in our business. It's more a business of teaching and sharing. Teachers do great. Coaches do great. If you have the ability to share something and let someone make up their own mind if they're excited or not, those people do the best in our business. Let me show you how it works, and then you can move forward. Show them a video or something. Show them how easy it is to share a tool or something like that. So, you'll get that. Now, let me give you number 5. This is another one that comes up. I've tried that before and it didn't work. I've tried network marketing in the past. It didn't work. I tried direct sales and it cost me a lot of money and it didn't work for me. Has anybody ever gotten that one? Let me know if you've ever gotten that one. And by the way, if there's some that I'm not giving you here, if there's other objections that you have that I'm not answering, drop them in the comments. I'll come back and I'll give you my thoughts on those. But when someone says, I've tried it before, it didn't work for me, I have 2 different things that I'll do in this particular situation. Again, remember, you have to discern whether or not they're too far gone. Some people are just too far gone. They're just shut down. So what I would do is there's 2 of them that I use. I've tried it before, it didn't work. One of the things that I'll do is I'll use kind of the restaurant analogy. I'll say, look, you go to restaurants, right? And they say, yeah. I'll say, you go to a lot of restaurants over the course of your life? They say, yeah. I say, have you ever had a horrible meal or horrible service, an experience where you'd never go back to that restaurant again? Well, yeah. Okay, but you still went to other restaurants though, right? You didn't stop going to restaurants because of a bad experience, right? And they say, well, yeah. Say, our business works very much the same way. Yeah, you might have had a bad experience 3 years ago, 4 years ago, but not all companies the same, not all products are the same, not all leadership teams are the same. So just because you go to a restaurant and have a bad meal doesn't mean you quit all restaurants, and just because you had a bad experience in direct sales or network marketing, that doesn't mean that all opportunities are bad. Would you agree with me on that? And when they agree with you, let me show you how we're different, and then you go in and talk about the benefits of your company and or your product and or your service. And so when you do that, you're letting people see how silly they're being. Just because I had a bad experience in the past, I'm not going to do anything in the future ever. I'm shutting myself completely off. I had a mentor a long time ago who was pretty aggressive. And you know what he used to say? And I don't use this one, but I'm going to share it with you. Let me know if you want to hear this one. This is a real aggressive one. When someone says, I tried it before, I'll never do it again. I've been in direct sales, I've been in network marketing, I'll never do it again. This one here is pretty aggressive. Again, I don't use this one, but he'd have a lot of fun. He'd say, hey, you want to know the difference between a man and a monkey? If a man burns his hand on a hot stove, he'll check it to make sure it's not hot the next time. A monkey will never go near the stove again. Which are you, a man or a monkey? Okay? And that's what he used to use, okay? I don't use that one. Now, here's another one that I will use. It's called kind of the ladder analogy. If they say, I tried that once before and it didn't work for me, or it didn't work, I'll ask them, well, it didn't work. Did it not work because you really didn't work? Because a lot of people sign up and don't do anything. Is that your situation? Or did you really try? Did you really try and make an effort? And a lot of people will admit that they didn't really do anything. They signed up and they never really did anything. I'll say, well, let's go ahead and get you working here. You got to put the effort and the energy in. Let's get you working here. Let me show you how we're different and you move forward. But if they say, yeah, I actually tried. I went to work. I made calls. Nothing happened. I will say to the person, no problem. I use that a lot, by the way. When people will come at me with an objection, I say, no problem. Okay? That is a statement that helps to put people at ease. So I say, no problem. Sometimes products aren't the same. Sometimes companies aren't the same. Sometimes leadership isn't the same. And maybe it wasn't your fault. Maybe you just had your ladder leaning against the wrong wall. Maybe you had your ladder leaning against the wrong wall. So let's analyze what makes us different. And let me show you why, if you hit your ladder to this wall, you can be successful. And then you move forward. So when people say, I've tried it before, I use the restaurant analogy. You go to a restaurant and have a bad meal, it doesn't mean you're going to sign off all restaurants for the rest of your life, does it? This is the same thing. Or I'll use the ladder against the wrong wall. Not all products are the same. Companies, leadership, not all the same. Maybe you had your ladder leaning against the wrong wall. Let me show you how this is the right place for you to be right now. And you go forward. Now, folks, there's a lot of, again, objections. And the one thing that I would share with you is simply this. Is that network marketing is a business of teaching and sharing and duplication. Never forget that. If you want to go to the top rank in your company, you're not going to sell your way there. You're not going to close your way there. You're not going to convince your way there. You're not going to argue your way there. You're only going to be able to duplicate your way there. You need to go out there and share your message, share your story, share your opportunity, share your product, and you need to do it consistently, and you need to get a lot of other people doing it consistently. It's not just about what you do. It's about you getting lots of people doing what you're doing, right? You need to get a lot of people doing what you're doing. Now, remember this. If you have created a concept for yourself where it's complicated, if you've created a concept for yourself where you're closing people, you're twisting them to get in, you're just overcoming every objection like, Alec Baldwin and Glengarry Glen Ross, right? ABC, always be closing, coffees for closers. If that's your model, do you think that 95% of the people out there are going to be able to replicate what it is that you're doing? Are they going to be able to do that? Or not? Remember, it's not about what you do. It's about just you getting lots of people doing what you're doing. So for that to occur, simple, easy, fun, duplicatable versus overcoming objections and closing. And whatever you do in the business, you're teaching people the business. If you're taking an objection and closing it and then getting the next one and you're overcoming it, and it's in a real aggressive sales type manner, guess what? People are going to sense that and they're going to think, I couldn't do this. You could create more objections for yourself just by the way you're handling things. I like to keep it simple, easy, loose, fun, kind of magical, and I like to have fun with it. And that's what I've tried to share with you in some of these responses. And again, it's having the knowledge and the discernment when you should address a prospect's legitimate concerns or when you've just got someone that's not the right person at the right time. If that's the case, disengage, thank them, don't burn the relationship up, reserve the right to check back with them, because everybody has circumstances in life, and a lot of this comes down to timing in a person's life. And if the timing's not right and they're throwing objections at you and you're trying to overcome them all, you could end up burning a bridge, or you could end up signaling to them, which you will, that for them to do this, they're going to have to chase people and overcome objections too. And I don't think you want to do that. So anyways, I hope I've been able to give you a little bit of value here. I've got an outline, but most of it I'm just throwing at you. I hope I've been able to give you a little bit of value. If you have any thoughts, ideas, or questions, drop them in the comments. If you feel value, please share this. And I'll look forward to seeing you on the next live stream. By the way, if you also have any topics that you would like to have me cover, I'll be happy to share my experience that I have with you with respect to that topic. Just drop it in, and I'll make a note of that, and we'll get you on the next live. Hey, I appreciate you so much. Very grateful for you taking the time to be here. And we'll talk with you again real soon. This is Rick Hagar here in Las Vegas, signing out. Bye for now.